taking a swim here is like having to balance 1,800 elephants on top of you.
What it is, guys, it's your boy BlastphamousHD. Today we're here to experience the deep, not the cringy, horny superhero from The Boys, but the deep sea. And this one's gonna be bad because y'all already know I don't do underwater stuff. So without further ado, I present to you, the ocean is deeper than we thought.
Just how deep does the ocean go? If you took the highest point on land and submerged it, you would still have more than a mile between you and the deepest point in the oceans. The oceans harbor 99% of all living space on Earth and have enough water to fill a bathtub that's 685 miles long on each side. For scale, here's a human, and here's a blue whale, the largest animal on Earth. Blue whales usually hunt at depths of around 330 feet within the well-lit zone of the ocean. Deeper down, at 700 feet, the USS Triton became the first submarine to circumnavigate the Earth in 1960. At 831 feet, we reached the deepest free dive in recorded history.
Free?
Down here, the pressure is 26 times greater than at the surface, which would crush most human lungs. But whales manage it, diving to a max depth of 1,640 feet where they hunt giant squid. At 2,400 feet, we reach the danger zone for modern nuclear attack submarines. Any deeper, and the submarine's hull would implode. 2,722 feet down is where the tip of the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa, would reach. A little farther, at 3,280 feet, we're deep enough that sunlight can't reach us. We've now entered the midnight zone. Many animals down here can't see, like these eyeless shrimp at 7,500 feet who thrive near scalding hot underwater volcanoes. At this depth, temperatures are just a few degrees above freezing, but the waters around hydrothermal vents can heat up to 800 degrees Fahrenheit. 9,816 feet is the deepest any mammal has been recorded swimming, the Cuvier beaked whale. But not even the Cuvier beaked whale could explore the RMS Titanic, which rests at a staggering depth of 12,500 feet. The pressure is now 378 times greater than at the surface. Yet you can still find sea life like the fangtooth, hagfish, and Dumbo octopus, the deepest living octopus on Earth. At 20,000 feet is the Hadal Zone, an area designated for the ocean's deepest trenches, like the Mariana Trench. If you tipped Mount Everest into the Mariana Trench, its summit would reach down to 29,029 feet. That still doesn't compare to the two deepest crewed missions in history. In 2012, director James Cameron descended to 35,756 feet for the Deep Sea Challenger mission. But Cameron didn't quite break the record, which was set by oceanographer Jacques Piccard and Lieutenant Don Walsh in 1960. Piccard and Walsh descended to the lowest point on Earth, Challenger Deep, at a record 35,797 feet below the surface. Since then, scientists have sent half a dozen unmanned submersibles to explore Challenger Deep, including Kaiko, which collected over 350 species off the seafloor between 1995 and 2003. But scientists estimate there are potentially thousands of marine species we have yet to discover. Humans have explored an estimated 5 to 10% of Earth's oceans. We've only just begun to understand the deep, dark world that flows beneath us.
God, Jesus. Oh, my life just flashed before my eyes like 17 times watching this shit.
Beneath the sunny ocean shallows is a dark world of mystery, beauty, and terror. The deep ocean makes up most of the living space on our planet, yet we know surprisingly little about this vast underwater world or the incredible creatures that somehow survive there. If we peered into the most poorly understood environment on Earth, what spectacular and horrifying things might we discover? The ocean is distinct from many habitats because its broad regions are divided vertically by depth, creating what's known as the water column. The uppermost 200 meters of the water column make up the epipelagic or sunlight zone, the most bountiful and accessible region in the ocean. Throughout the sunlight zone, temperatures are relatively warm and flora and fauna receive plenty of sunlight. Seagrass and colorful algae create flowing underwater gardens along the seafloor. In some areas, reef-building animals like coral construct massive reef systems stretching more than 2,000 kilometers that support innumerable diverse species. The most important organisms in the sunlight zone are actually pigmented algae called phytoplankton. During certain seasons, blooms of these microorganisms illuminate shallow waters and coastlines, creating large radiant designs sometimes captured by orbital satellites. Phytoplankton also form the foundation of our global marine food web, supporting countless populations of zooplankton, crustaceans, and larger vertebrates. Below the sunlight zone, the ocean becomes dimmer, colder, and more barren. At these depths, light from the surface begins to dwindle, turning once sunny waters into a region of grey and gloom. The mesopelagic, or twilight zone, is a broad boundary between the ocean shallows and the deeper and darker worlds below. Some light penetrates the twilight zone, but not enough for photosynthetic plants to reliably convert sunlight into food. Common producers like phytoplankton cannot survive, so mesopelagic animals must rely on food that falls from the upper ocean. Bits of dead material and waste, known as marine snow, consistently sink into the twilight zone, feeding the many creatures that thrive in this gloomy environment. The twilight zone can be a dangerous place for small animals floating in open waters. The primary light source in the ocean shines from above, so predators often hide in the darkness and look for the silhouettes of their prey against the faint glow from the surface.
Damn!
To survive, many animals have adapted forms of camouflage and can effectively disappear in plain sight. Animals like the glass octopus have nearly transparent bodies and see-through skin. Only their eyes and organs are faintly visible.
Damn!
With this clever disguise, the glass octopus and other transparent creatures can safely float through open waters without attracting dangerous predators. Around 1,000 meters, we descend into the bathypelagic or midnight zone, a region of near total darkness and the single largest habitat on Earth. No sunlight reaches these tremendous depths, so the water is perilously dark and extremely cold, resting around 39 degrees Fahrenheit or 4 degrees Celsius.
Damn!
If bone-chilling temperatures aren't challenging enough, creatures must also endure at least 100 times more pressure than anywhere at sea level. The conditions are so extreme that, for many years, scientists mistakenly assumed the deep ocean was too punishing and barren to support diverse life. While photosynthetic organisms like phytoplankton cannot grow in the midnight zone, this competitive habitat still contains incredible diversity, home to creatures that defy our expectations and, sometimes, make our skin crawl. In the midnight zone, predators specialize in hunting in absolute darkness, so many rely on niche strategies to secure food. One ghoulish predator, the pelican or gulper eel, has evolved a whip-like body and a great gaping mouth to scoop up vulnerable prey. Hanging its jaws wide open, the pelican eel swallows everything in its path, including mouthfuls of seawater. Any excess water is ejected through the eel's gills, while its prey goes tumbling into its expanding stomach. These kinds of exaggerated shapes are common among deep-sea carnivores. Just look at the goblin shark, a menacing ambush predator with a blade-like snout and retractable jaws that thrust outward to snatch their prey. Goblin sharks are the only known living species of Mitsukurinidae, a family of sharks dating back 125 million years. Goblin sharks may have survived so long thanks to an extraordinary evolutionary adaptation. Using special electroreceptors on their snouts, goblin sharks can sense tiny changes in electrical fields, like those created by the nervous systems of living things. These electroreceptors allow goblin sharks to pinpoint camouflaged prey in the deepest, darkest waters. Not even the stealthiest animals can hide from this hunter's finely tuned senses. Alongside such strange-looking predators, ghostly apparitions can be found drifting through the deep sea. These delicate animals move slowly and gracefully, propelling their bodies with large bells and grabbing prey with sinewy tentacles. Deep-sea jellyfish are plentiful in the midnight zone because their soft bodies can tolerate extreme conditions thousands of meters below sea level. Among the many species of jellyfish in the deep ocean, very few are as large or haunting as the giant phantom jelly. Stretching up to 10 meters long, these graceful giants float like bundles of scarlet drapery. With their flowing tentacles, they feed on tiny animals like plankton and small fish. However, these jellies are so large and slow that other creatures may take refuge in their long arms, finding some safety in this dark and dangerous world. The strangest deep-sea creatures resemble aliens transported from the pages of science fiction. They may look like extraterrestrials, but these unusual predators belong to an order of hydrozoans called siphonophores. At first glance, siphonophores resemble strange-looking jellyfish, but they are much more complicated than they appear. A single siphonophore is comprised of a colony of tiny multicellular organisms called zooids. Within each colony, zooids are specialized to perform different roles. Some produce light or bioluminescence, while others attack prey with paralyzing toxins. Because of their colonial structure, siphonophores can take an astounding variety of shapes and sizes, from tiny translucent bells to glowing chains up to 50 meters long.
Dang.
Of course, siphonophores aren't the only deep-sea creatures that use some form of bioluminescence. Many animals generate spellbinding lights and colors that brighten the midnight zone, like fireworks exploding in the night sky. Though beautiful to see, bioluminescence serves many essential evolutionary functions. Animals like the coronet medusa, nicknamed the alarm jelly, create brilliant flashes of light that startle or disorient other animals. In the pitch-black ocean, these flashes are visible far and wide, deterring potential predators by threatening to attract even larger ones. Not all deep-sea creatures are bioluminescent. They can't generate their own light, so some use glowing bacteria, or symbionts, to create light for them. Colonies of symbionts help animals like deep-sea anglerfish attract their prey. These menacing creatures have oversized jaws and lures called esker attached to their heads, which house glowing symbionts. With its jaws hanging open, the anglerfish wiggles its esker to lure nearby animals. If any poor creature takes the bait, the angler snaps its jaws shut and devours the animal in one explosive bite. Below the midnight zone, we enter the abyssopelagic zone, or the abyss, about 6,000 meters below sea level. The abyss is the pitch-black bottom of the ocean, a world of both scarcity and surprising abundance. In this deep-sea zone, rare oases form around the carcasses of large animals, like whales, that come to rest on the ocean floor. When a whale dies in the upper ocean, its massive body sinks into the abyss, where it supports a new ecosystem, known as a whalefall. One whalefall can feed thousands of creatures for several decades. Attracted by the smell of meat, active swimmers like deep-sea sharks and fish are the first to arrive. Next come the opportunists, like octopi and crustaceans, which pick the whale's carcass clean over many months. Worms and snails feed on the fat and blubber, while bacteria slowly break down the whale's bones. Ultimately, no part of the whale is left behind. Whalefalls are not the only plentiful ecosystems in the abyss. Vibrant communities of deep-sea life also gather around superheated chimneys called hydrothermal vents. These unique landforms spew billowing clouds of mineral-rich water that support an alternative pathway for life. Vent communities are unique from every other ecosystem on the planet because they form entirely without sunlight. Near the surface, photosynthetic organisms use sunlight to generate food. No sunlight reaches the bottom of the ocean, so bacteria and some archaea use the energy released by certain chemical reactions through a process called chemosynthesis. Around deep-sea vents, chemosynthetic microbes grow in sprawling mats, which sustain other organisms like vent crabs, bivalves, and colonies of giant tube worms. From the twilight zone to the darkest abyss, the deep sea is full of strange and terrifying secrets, and many more are left to be discovered. Nowhere on our planet is as foreign and mysterious as the deep sea, but the little we know is nothing short of extraordinary.
Here, light can still penetrate the water, which allows photosynthesis to occur. Phytoplankton, trillions and trillions of single-celled algae and bacteria make up the foundation of the ocean's ecosystem, and they're consumed by bigger plankton who are consumed by other species. The seafloor at this depth is akin to the Amazon rainforest and is often covered with coral reefs, algae and other sea plants that are home to a plethora of sea animals. So far, we've focused most of our attention on this comparatively pleasant environment where we fish, swim, pollute, and do science. So, let's dive deeper. Moving from familiar coastal waters into deeper, more remote waters, we eventually reach the edge of the continental shelf, where we're confronted with the continental slope, the long descent down to the deep sea. With every additional meter of water, light fades drastically, which means there are basically no more plants, and the seemingly steep continental slope begins to remind us of the surface of the moon. Looking out, we're faced by what seems to be endless open water. Let's leave the slope behind us and enter what's known as the twilight zone, the portal to the deep sea. As we sink down further, the water pressure rises to deadly levels. The deepest scuba dive ever came in at 332 meters. At that depth, the pressure is like having 200 cars stacked on top of you. Yet we've only completed 3% of our journey. While this region seems pretty grim, many fish and other animals actually spend at least half their lives down here. During the day, it's a good place to rest and recover, hidden from predators in the vast, dark waters. At night, they can travel more safely into shallower zones to feed in the food-rich surface waters. In this transition zone between twilight and darkness, light becomes a powerful tool. Over 90% of the species indigenous to this deep environment use bioluminescence chemicals to create light. They do so as camouflage against the very faint sunlight, to send signals to potential mates, or to confuse and scare attackers. Or they use light to hunt. Another tool for survival in the dark is teamwork. At around 700 meters, we encounter a colony of siphonophores. They can be up to 50 meters in length, but are only as wide as a broomstick. To attract prey, a colony creates a tragically beautiful bright blue or red light and deploys a curtain of tentacles filled with toxic needles that kill anything that comes too close.
Damn!
But most species living down here have to rely on an unlikely resource: marine snow. White, flaky stuff that constantly sinks from the surface to the bottom of the ocean. It consists of dead plant or animal parts, fecal matter, shells, sand, or dust. Even though this doesn't sound very tasty, without this crucial resource, life in the deep sea would starve.
Damn!
It's in this area that the most fascinating battles between two unlikely enemies could happen. Sperm whales hunt and attack giant squid the size of a house. While the squid fight back ferociously, they probably don't stand a chance, but they do leave permanent marks on their killer's skin. As we reach 1,000 meters, deeper than the tallest structure built by humans, we need to be careful. This is the Midnight Zone, a place of utter darkness. A barely explored wet wasteland consisting of nothing but endless black open water. At these depths, it's harder for a human to take a swim than to take a walk in space.
Ooh!
Finding food down here is really hard, so life had to adapt and become extremely energy efficient. Like the 30-centimeter long vampire squid that floats through the water without motion, with long and slender catching arms extended. They're covered in tiny, stiff hairs which brush food from the water. This saves a lot of energy compared to actively catching food. For carnivorous fish, it's much harder to find food since living prey is quite rare down here. So the hunters have to get a perfect grip on their victim on first strike, otherwise it will escape into the dark. Many deep-sea predators have several sets of long and deadly teeth. Like the viperfish, which uses its long fangs to trap even large prey and swallow it whole. Or the frilled shark with its impressive set of 300 teeth, which are curved backwards to hook their victims in their mouths. We sink further, below the 3,800 mark, as deep as the grave of the Titanic. We are now at abyssal depths. Here, life happens in slow motion. Preserving every last bit of energy is crucial for survival. Everything down here hovers motionless or swims in a slow, elegant fashion. The only time the animals living in this zone move fast is when they have to escape danger. Like the Dumbo octopod paddling with its ear-like fins, or the grenadier's fish with its slow, eel-like tail beats. At 4,000 meters, we finally reach ground again, the abyssal plain. It's covered in grey mud and rocks, dusted with the remains of marine snow, which is consumed by animals like sea cucumbers, shrimp, sea urchins, and sea worms. In some regions of the seafloor, small, dark mineral deposits can be seen. These are manganese nodules. Deep-sea corals and sponges use them to anchor themselves on the bottom of the sea. Though life is sparse on the deep seafloor, even down here there are oases. In the rift valleys, where tectonic plates are splitting apart, magma heats up seawater and creates dark jets of water and minerals as hot as 400 degrees Celsius that form elaborate chimneys and towers. Extremophile bacteria use the minerals to create organic substances that are the basis for unique ecosystems. As we descend further, we reach the deepest point of the abyssal plain at 6,000 meters. For most of the seafloor, this is as deep as it gets. But if we want to get to the deepest point of the oceans, we're actually only halfway there. Let's enter the Hadal Zone, the underworld of the sea. It consists of long, narrow trenches that only make up around 0.25% of the oceans and are among the most extreme environments on Earth. Only extremophiles exist down here, like the ethereal snailfish that holds the record for the deepest living fish ever seen at around 8,000 meters.
God damn.
We see spiky and sharp black rocks rush by as we sink down to more than 10,000. Until we reach the final slope, a trench inside the larger Mariana Trench with gently sloping sides that enframe a valley about 1.6 kilometers wide. This is it. The deepest point, the Challenger Deep, 11,000 meters below the surface. The water pressure here is 1,086 bar. Taking a swim here is like having to balance 1,800 elephants on top of you. But even here, life has found a way to thrive. Next to sea cucumbers, white and light pink amphipods wiggle their way through the water. Their size is astounding. While their shallow water cousins are merely a few centimeters long, the deep-sea version can reach up to 30 centimeters. And there are other things floating elegantly through the water. Plastic bags that were found by scientists in 2018. Even the remotest place on Earth is not safe from human influence. There's nothing left to do now, and our oxygen is running out, so we begin our ascent. After hours of traveling through dark nothingness, we finally see a glimpse of light. We arrive back at a calm surface. The oceans are so deep. There is so much of them. We owe it to ourselves and to our descendants to preserve them as well as we can.
I thought he was about to say we owe it to our descendants to explore the shit ourselves. I'm not doing it. I'm grossly allergic to drowning. You know, my doctors told me that a while back. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to comment, like, and don't subscribe. The moral of this video is not all wetness is good wetness. Twisms!